The next series of videos will take a deep dive into my explorations of the interconnectedness of modular building patterns in natural design. In essence, basic geometry is a catalog of structural and numerical constants that define the interconnectedness of the essential parts of fundamental structure. This deep dive is an attempt to train your imagination to always think in whole systems, how the parts are connected into one synergetic whole. Here you can see physical models of how synergy works in the natural world. Each part knows its exact relationship with every other part. Change one and they all change in unison to maintain a constant relationship. My work is unique because for 40 years I have been developing an archive of physical and digital models of nature's modular building patterns. Each type of model has its strengths and weaknesses, and the combination of the two are most effective. The three landmark positioning technique that Fabio Schwalb and I developed for digital models is as close to holding the structures in your hand as is possible with a digital model. Whole systems thinking begins with the 146 closest packed spheres around our central blue U-Me ball. I define these three layers of spheres as the initial cycle of growth with 6 BB equals 12 centimeters as the maximum reach of our all-purpose center. There is a structural memory embedded in our U-Me ball. The prime first cause of this system of understanding structure is choosing a regulation ping pong ball as our U-Me ball. Its radius of BB equals 2 centimeters allows us to tune any structure to our time and size and location. Spheres of the same size can pack together in a most effective minimum arrangement called closest packed. This means the centers of all of the spheres are as close together as possible, and each sphere is touching the maximum number of other spheres. This is one of the most fundamental structural numerical constants found in nature. There is a structural memory embedded in these spheres that helps you understand the interconnected modular building patterns that are at the core of natural design. The International Federation of Table Tennis regulates the size of tournament play ping pong balls, so you have a relative cheap source of same-size spheres. Their radius will always be 2 centimeters. This defines our BB belly button scale number. All measurements and new tools geometry and natural modular building techniques will be relative to this first number, BB equals 2 centimeters. To determine distance using spheres, measure center to center. 4 spheres equals 6 radii equals 6 BB equals 12 centimeters. All measurements are in metric. The center of this sphere becomes our all-purpose center of everything, meaning all structures share this one common center. I added 3 landmarks to further align any fundamental structure you want to study. Radiating out in all directions is a sphere of influence anchored by a cross-section relative size field. This field defines the maximum reach of our center at 6 BB equals 12 centimeters. Within this field is the equator of any structure. Perpendicular to the equator is the axis of spin with its north and south poles that define handedness, clockwise in one hemisphere, counterclockwise in the other. Now we can build a genealogy of interconnectedness because any new structure will be in the same exact orientation as all the preceding ones. All order begins by radiating out in all directions all at once, which forms a maximum reach sphere of influence of our all-purpose center. This sphere is divided in half by a relative size field with a maximum limit inside of 6 BB equals 12 centimeters. This forms the equator. Perpendicular to the equator is the axis of spin, part of the 8 blue direction communication network connecting the center to the outside limit and beyond. Think of the blue directions as the first expression of the embedded structural memory. These blue directions remember a 60-degree order that surrounds them that are connected to the white locations in common orbiting in unison. This defines the 60-degree family of fundamental structures with the VE as the default system. I have defined 3 layers of closest packed spheres as the first cycle of spherical growth. Looking at the equator, you can see 6BB is divided into 1/3 divisions. 2BB equals 4 centimeters, 4BB equals 8 centimeters, and 6BB equals 12 centimeters. With relative size defined, we now add the self-organizing ability of circles and triangles. 4 circles orbiting in 60-degree relationship with each other around our common center is the most effective minimum expression of a sphere. When filled in, you see that is the internal structure of the VE, defining the 60-degree structural family. The axis of spin is surrounded by 2 tetrahedrons spinning in opposite directions. The blue directions remember all of these connections. At the end of each blue direction is a structural memory sphere of influence. It remembers all the synergetic interconnectedness of basic modular building patterns. The 60-degree triangle constructs 2 tetras and the hexagonal equator that define the internal structures of the VE. 4 6BB hexagons spinning in 60-degree relationship with each other around a common center also define this same 6BB VE. Inside any sphere is a VE with an edge equal to the radius of the sphere. This is a structural and numerical constant, meaning it's always true. It is information you can build on. The spheres organize the 50 directions of the sphere family. No matter how many layers of spheres there are, they know where each line of communication is located relative to the arrangement of the spheres. In the subsequent videos, we will further explore this structural memory. There are 4 locations in common that define the communication network that connects the center to the structure's outside limits. These locations are outside corners, the symmetrical division of the outside edge, and the centers of the outside shapes. One sphere has a vast structural memory that defines a genealogy of synergetic interconnectedness among the most effective minimum modular building patterns. Each essential part knows its exact relationship with all the other parts. Change one, and they all change in unison to maintain their constant relationship no matter the size. The memory resides in an all-purpose center of everything.